Hello everyone, my name is Danni Watts-Jones of DWJ Wealth Management. This is the lovely Alison Kent from JCP Solicitors. Last time we chatted about the importance of making wills. Today we're going to chat about the importance of LPAs, or more commonly known as lasting power of attorneys. For me, as a financial advisor and financial planner, it's more important for clients to have a lasting power of attorney in place as they actually use it during their lifetime. Where a will, you don't use it during your lifetime. Now for me, I'm going to hand over to the expert, ask her a number of questions, and I'm sure by the end of the session, you'll know everything you need to know about how to make a lasting power of attorney.
Hi, Danni.
Hi, Alison. How are you doing? You good?
Yeah, good, thanks. How are you?
Fantastic. Now, Alison, if it's okay with you, we'll do the questions on a step-by-step basis, starting with, can you tell the ladies and gentlemen at home what a lasting power of attorney is, please?
Well, a lasting power of attorney is a legal document that enables you to choose people to look after your affairs, whether that be financial affairs or your health and welfare. They can make decisions for you at a time where you maybe can't make those decisions for yourself. For example, if you're failing health, you've got Alzheimer's or dementia, then they can step in and make decisions for you. There's two types of lasting power of attorney. One is in relation to property and financial decisions. The other is in relation to decisions about your health, your medical care, and your day-to-day welfare. Now, I think clients are quite familiar with the first of those in relation to finances. The second one, the health and welfare one, has become much more common in recent years. Now that we've got, data protection, doctors maybe not being that happy about discussing health and welfare with a member of the family. So, for example, if you're in hospital and you are unable to make decisions about your own care, you can have somebody nominated to be able to literally step into your shoes and to make those decisions for you. It helps you because obviously these people are going to know you and they're going to know what you would have wanted more than maybe medical staff would have. It also helps the medical profession because they don't have to then think about, right, who can I speak to about this person? Am I allowed to give information to this person? You'd have this legal document and it can be on your medical notes. You can take it into hospital when you go to visit somebody. So that is there and there's no confusion. It also prompts a conversation in families that maybe would never happen otherwise.
We never want to talk about being ill, do we?
We want to talk about it, and quite often clients will come in and they'll say, I've tried to talk to my children about this because every time I talk to them, they get upset or they just don't want to talk about it. They don't want to imagine a time when mum or dad are not going to be able to make decisions. But having these documents, obviously, it prompts that conversation, and it just means that everybody knows what is going to happen if that situation arose. So if children are ever faced with the situation in the hospital, do we carry on life-sustaining treatment for mum and dad, for example, or do we have a do not resuscitate agreement in place? Those children have the legal power to make that decision. That's the first thing. But secondly, the chances are they would have spoken to mum and dad and they know what mum and dad would have wanted. And I think that's really important for families because children quite often want to help their parents, but they can't, they don't feel like they have the legal right to do that. But having these documents in place, one, gives them that legal right, but also they feel morally more able to make that decision because they know their parents wanted them to do that.
Why would you say a client or a person would need one of these?
Well, it's interesting that you said at the beginning that in some respects this is more important than a will. It's not difficult to tell clients that a will is important because obviously clients appreciate that unfortunately at one point we are all going to die. The difficulty with LPAs is that I think human nature doesn't let us appreciate these, you know, things can happen. Things like dementia, because they don't happen to everyone, clients quite often will think, oh, that's never going to happen to me. But I think it's really important to appreciate that dementia can occur at any point in life. You know, I think the youngest case of dementia is something like 36, or thereabouts. You know, so it's not just something for very elderly clients. I think that's the first thing that we need to get across. But really, most of the clients that I have that have got lasting powers of attorney that are being used, they are capable of managing their affairs, but sometimes it's just easier to have other people to help you to do that.
Yeah,
particularly, I know clients who maybe are not as familiar with dealing with computer online accounts and things like that.
Yeah.
They've got children helping them with that. For some clients who maybe can't get out and about as well as they used to, they'll have their, you know, family or friends to help them. So it's not just a situation where somebody has lost capacity completely.
Yeah.
For lots of clients, they can do some of their, make some of their financial decisions, but there's just other things that they need a little bit of help with.
And I've got to be honest, Alison, we've come across a number of clients within the practice here where clients just can't be bothered, and I mean that in the nicest possible way. They're like, oh no, my daughter or my son or whoever it might be, who are the attorneys, are far better off at dealing with this stuff than I am, you know. And I think sometimes that's okay if it's right for the actual person who set up the lasting power attorney, then absolutely all day long, you know. That would certainly be what I've noticed over the years when I've been doing these sort of cases, you know.
And it's more difficult now for financial institutions to be able to deal with other members of the family because you've got data protection, and you know you can't organise pet insurance without going through some kind of scenario and bureaucracy as well. You know, I think it's important that, you know, we appreciate that it helps financial institutions to have these documents in place if we want family members to help us.
It's a legal binding document, isn't it, that says they can, you know, and I think that's very important, isn't it, you know? Makes life a lot easier if you get it right in the very beginning.
It does.
Can you tell me who typically do clients choose for their attorneys? So give me some examples of who you would recommend.
For most clients, they will choose their partner or their spouse. Together with their children. That's the typical thing that people will choose. Other people will choose maybe brothers or sisters. For our younger clients, quite often they choose their parents.
Yeah.
Consider the age of the parents concerned.
Yeah.
It's important that we realise that as soon as we have got finances, we should be thinking about making a lasting power of attorney. I've made lasting powers of attorney for people in their 20s and their 30s. It's not something that we should put off until we're older.
I have this thing every time. It doesn't mean because you make a will or you make a lasting power of attorney, you're going to use it tomorrow. I say, actually, we hope you're not going to use it tomorrow, you know, but just in case something happens, you're well prepared. Have you noticed along the way are there any issues when they need to make decisions together? Do they all have to sign together? What would be the scenario there?
When you're making the document, you decide whether you want the attorneys to make decisions together, so jointly.
Okay.
Or whether they make decisions jointly and separately, which means they can make decisions together, but they can make decisions individually as well.
Yes.
We always recommend that you do appoint more than one attorney,
okay,
just so you have the ability to rely on more than one person.
Like a backup, I guess, Alison.
Yes, exactly. So
Yeah.
if you've got an attorney that's out of the country or an attorney that's also unwell at that time, then you have got somebody else who can make decisions. So it's not, in my view, it's not a good idea to appoint them just to act jointly, because then if one of them is not able to act, no decisions can be made. So we would always recommend that you appoint jointly and severally. So if we took the example of a husband appointing his wife and 2 children, now if they were appointed jointly and severally, and the husband and wife happen to be ill at the same time, because they tend to be the same sort of generational age, then the children can just step in and deal with it. If one child is away on holiday or works away, then the other one can just deal with things. The important thing with these documents is that they are meant to be practical. They're meant to be available at a moment's notice. You don't want to have to wait for your attorney to come back from Australia after 3 weeks, for example.
And if we were looking at the lasting power of attorney document, I hear lots of people say about, yeah, I've got one, but they haven't registered it. Can you explain the importance of registering the lasting power of attorney as well, Alison, please?
Registration is really important. It's the rubber stamp, really. Without a registration, that document is not going to be accepted by banks and other financial institutions. It's not valid at all until it's been registered at the Office of the Public Guardian. When we deal with lasting powers of attorney for clients, our recommendation is that as soon as the document is prepared, it's registered straight away. We don't know when problems are going to arise. For example, you could have an accident at the age of 21, couldn't you? And you could be in a coma for 6 months and nobody able to manage your affairs. We don't necessarily get a warning when a problem is going to occur. So if you have them registered as soon as they're prepared, then that document is ready to be used. Registration takes in the region of about 3 months. So it's something that should be done straight away, so it's ready and there's no delay for anybody who's trying to deal and help you,
If somebody wanted to, let's say, revoke their lasting power of attorney, not that I'm saying they would want to for 1 second, but let's say there may have been a difference in opinion over different things, let's say with a son or a partner or whatever it might be, how would they go about revoking it?
What you would do then is you would prepare a deed of revocation, and you would revoke the old lasting power of attorney, and you'd make a new one. And you would have to notify the Office of the Public Guardian of that.
So very similar to the will, you can change your mind if you don't want that attorney to act on your behalf.
Yeah, it's really important that clients don't think that they're signing their life away by doing this. You're still in control. You have still got decision-making powers, and it's not a case of preparing a lasting power of attorney and then you lose control. They're helping you.
Yeah.
They shouldn't be taking over. If you still got capacity to manage your affairs, they should be helping you to do that. It's not about you signing away your rights in any way at all. The only time that the attorney can actually step in and take over is if you have lost mental capacity.
Why would you say a lasting power of attorney is particularly important when you're doing financial planning?
Well, for financial planning, it's, quite often you will have contact with your clients on a very regular basis, and you'll be asking for their opinion and they will be making decisions quite frequently. If you haven't got the ability to do that anymore, then the problem comes about that other members of the family or friends are not going to have the ability to make those decisions for you. If you've lost capacity by that point, so you're not able to make a lasting power of attorney, the only option then will be for you or for a member of your family or friend to apply to the court to have powers to deal with your finances. What I would say, if you are making a lasting power of attorney, it is important that you consider giving your attorneys the right to delegate some of their powers in relation to financial management and discretionary fund management, because otherwise the attorneys, even if you have made a lasting power of attorney, won't be able to carry on instructing your financial advisor to advise in that way. So it's really quite important that you take advice when you're making lasting powers of attorney and you consider all of these different angles with that.
We've seen it within the practice where they haven't been worded correctly and they don't have the authorization. We can't even help them around managing existing portfolios.
Yeah.
And like you rightfully said, if the wording isn't correct, and that's why we always say, get the wording correct, make sure you're seeking legal advice when you're making a lasting power of attorney, particularly around it. If, for example, somebody didn't have any wording on there whatsoever, is there any way they can amend this or get this changed? Or so, is there a get or a jail card is what I'm asking if somebody hasn't done it right in the first place?
Good question. I think if the person who's made the lasting power of attorney still has mental capacity to make a new one, then the answer is quite simple in that, yes, revoke the one that you've got, make a new one, and then make sure that the powers are in there. However, we normally find out these problems after somebody has lost capacity. That is the issue, when then obviously they can't make another lasting power of attorney. In that situation, what you would do is the attorneys would have to apply for the Court of Protection for authorisation instead. Obviously that, that sometimes is the only option, but it's much better to foresee this and actually have the document wording correct in the beginning.
Because we've had scenarios where we've had one client with a lasting power of attorney, one without. The ones without, it can become quite costly going back and forth to the Court of Protection, and it isn't swift at all. So I always say to people, listen, for the sake of you getting something arranged at the onset, it could save you and your family an awful lot of money, particularly down the road. That's just my experience.
Definitely. And what we're finding is clients who have been through this situation with a family member where they've literally been locked out of accounts and they had to apply to the court to have powers to deal with their loved ones' affairs, they are very quick to come into the office and say, I want a lasting power of attorney. I have seen firsthand the problems that come about if I haven't got one.
Yeah, of course.
We also find people coming in saying, we've used my mother's lasting power of attorney. It's been so helpful. I've seen the benefits of it. I now want to do one myself. So, word is getting out there, but I think there are still quite a lot of people who either have never heard of lasting powers of attorney, or they've heard of them, but think it's something you do when you're 80 or 90. And it's really getting around that, because more often than not, we get calls from family to say, mum's lost capacity, dad's lost capacity, can we make a lasting power of attorney? And we have to say to them, there's absolutely nothing that you can do with a lasting power of attorney at that point, because to make a lasting power of attorney, you have to be mentally capable to make that choice.
Absolutely.
So, when clients come to see us about making a will, we will always mention lasting powers of attorney to them. And more often than not, clients will go ahead and make lasting powers of attorney. Because as you say, a will is never going to affect you. By its very nature, you'll be gone by the time the will comes into effect. A lasting power of attorney is going to have an actual effect on you personally.
Absolutely, and I think during your lifetime, I would say would be a priority for me rather than after my days when I'm not here. Yes, it's good to have your finances in line and organised, but I think I would want to know that somebody's doing the best job they can for me within the remit of what I've agreed on a legal document. Some of the things that I'm picking up already from our discussions, Alison, would be perhaps the need to review lasting power of attorneys and obviously to write one, obviously. And is that something that you can do within JCP Solicitors, is review other lasting power of attorneys just to check that they're okay and they have the necessary wordings?
Yes. And for some clients, they have made the old style enduring powers of attorney. So lots of those clients now come in and we review those, decide whether they're still fit for purpose for that individual client. For some clients, they revoke those and make the new style lasting power of attorney. Enduring powers of attorney, although you can't make them anymore, the ones that were made in the past are still valid. So I don't want anybody to be concerned about that. But in some respects, lasting powers of attorney are better because they can be registered straight away. Now, with enduring powers of attorney, they can't be registered until you are either losing capacity or have lost mental capacity. The problem with that is, if you lose capacity sort of all of a sudden in an accident or something like that, your family have then got 3-month wait for that to be registered. And in that period of time, they can't do anything. So, you know, it's a good idea to review these documents just to make sure that they are going to be as practical and as easy to use as you want them to be.
I think you're absolutely spot on in terms of reviewing legal documents, things that you've done. It might have been relevant years ago, it may not be relevant now, you know, and it's the same with your finances, is ensuring you're reviewing it on an ongoing basis, because things change, you change.
Yes.
And I think sometimes we have to change things within the legal documents we have as well. So I think many people would agree it's a good thing to make lasting power of attorneys. So for example, let's say clients wanted to do it. How would they go about that with JCP Solicitors?
Well, at the moment, the office isn't open for clients as such. Hopefully it won't be too much longer before it is. So we are asking clients to contact us by telephone or email in the first instance. We're having telephone appointments, as we did with, we do with wills as well, or Zoom appointments for clients, going through everything with them on the phone, and then we're sending the documents out to them for consideration. So the procedure is very much the same as it would have been before the pandemic happened. And generally clients are quite happy to deal with us over the phone with these things. We then will talk clients through the documents, talk to them about the appropriate people to appoint. For some clients, if they've got businesses, for example, they can have two types of lasting power of attorney for finances, one dealing with personal finances, the other dealing with business finances. So for those clients, you know, they may have three lasting powers of attorney. They may have two financial ones and a health and welfare one. But we can talk through all of those options. Health and welfare lasting powers of attorney are becoming very much more common than they were. They're a fairly new creation. I think now that we are so much more careful about the information that is held about us, doctors and medical staff are not so happy to talk to other members of the family about your care. If you think maybe 10, 15 years ago, doctors would routinely talk to family members about your care, and sometimes that does still happen, but nowadays it's a lot more difficult to get this personal information about somebody else.
Yeah.
So health and welfare lasting powers of attorney are just as important really as the financial ones.
And it would be basically the digital experience or virtual experience of what they normally get during these crazy times.
Yes, exactly.
And if they need to get it witnessed and things like that, are they okay to get it witnessed by a third party? Who should they be using for that?
Well, in normal times, generally I would act as a witness for my clients, but obviously we can't at the moment. So as we're doing with wills, generally clients are having their neighbours or friends. You need to have somebody who has known you for at least 2 years to be able to act as your certificate provider. Now, the certificate provider is just somebody who checks that you are not being put under any pressure to make the document, to make sure that you are mentally capable of being able to make that document. So a solicitor can act as your certificate provider, but in this lockdown, most of our clients are just choosing neighbours that they've known for a long time.
Doctors sometimes?
Yeah, doctors sometimes will as well.
Brilliant.
And it, you know, it's actually quite a straightforward process. It sounds a lot more complicated. And when you see the documents, they look a bit more complicated than they actually are when you go through them with clients.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think it's just important that you can talk through the options, you can weigh up the advantages and disadvantages of the people that you appoint, and that the documents are really as user-friendly as they can be when they're needed to be used.
That's brilliant, Alison. I'm sure everyone will agree. We've all covered off the points around the importance of making a lasting power of attorney and how easy it can be even during these virtual times. So I'm sure everybody will be rushing over to see you and to get their lasting power of attorneys in order, or at least reviewed as a minimum. Thank you for today, and the next time we'll be chatting, we'll be going through different things such as trust planning and the benefits of reviewing that also. without further ado, it's goodbye from me and goodbye from the lovely Alison.
Bye-bye then.
Bye-bye.